What's going on, everyone? Today we have the RTX 5050. This is the gigabyte gaming version. It's got 8 gigs of VRAM. We're going to be pairing it today with the 14600K and 32 gigs of RAM. We're going to be going through this title layer by layer and checking out all the different settings to ensure that you get the best visual fidelity at the best possible frame rate. With all that out of the way, if you get something out of this, please consider subscribing by clicking that little button down there at the bottom, and let's jump into the video. All right, we are on 1080p and we have native resolution set to, no upscaling, no frame generation, and everything is set to medium at the moment. So at medium, you get about 71 FPS in this title. Again, this is the 5050, so this is an entry-level Blackwell card, the cheapest Blackwell card you can get, and it gives you access to multi-frame generation, although this title does not seem to support multi-frame generation. It's just regular frame generation. So we're going to actually see how well this does perform. Again, at 1080p, medium preset, no upscaling, no frame generation. We're actually looking pretty good. All right, so we just got through that little cutscene right there. So we're at 73 FPS. Let's see if we can push this up a little bit more. I'm going to get my stuff out of the way here. Looking at going up to a high, then an epic. So we're going to go with high. Again, we're not going to mess with anything down here. All this is just going to be left alone. No frame generation, no upscaler, nothing like that. No ray tracing for sure. All right, so let's just see what that gives us. Let's bring those metrics back up. All right, so we're still above 60 on the high preset, which is a good sign. Our upscaler has not been implemented yet at all, so we might be able to get a pretty good experience out of this title yet with the 5050. Again, it's going to come down to that VRAM. Right now we are at allocated 6.7. We have 8 gigs on this card. And we're just going to run through here and see if this is a viable 1080p card of this visual fidelity. So we're looking at 69 FPS over here. Again, I'm staying away from Kobo just because it's so broken. It's still broken. It's not a good representation of a card. It's more of a representation of a poorly optimized area. So outside of Kobo, this will hopefully be how the game performs. So 75 FPS here, looking pretty good. Let's jump over, of course, get those metrics out of the way. Let's see if we can push it all the way up to an epic preset. Again, we're not doing any kind of ray tracing. We're not doing any upscaling, and we're not doing any frame generation. Pretty good showing here for this card, actually, all things considered. I am on the 14600K, so that is a CPU that I feel would be more balanced for this type of card. If you were to, say, build a new PC with this card in mind, a 14600K, there's a little stutter there, nothing too bad. A 14600K actually can be acquired pretty cheaply. There's a lot of sales all the time, so it's a good pairing for this CPU. And right now we're comfortably above 60. We're actually at 70 FPS here, and our VRAM allocation is a 6.7, but we're only using around 6, so that's a good sign. Looks like it's going to be pretty doable at 1080p. Now, I say that with the fact that we have not enabled any sort of ray tracing yet. So let's go here and turn on some ray tracing. Now that we've kind of seeing that epic settings is doable, it's going to do some processing, kind of some background tasks, and then we're going to jump back in. All right, so we have our ray tracing turned on, and we are still at 52 FPS, and we have not done any upscaling. So right here, I'm thinking that once we turn on some quality upscaling, we're going to be able to keep this game above 60 without any sort of frame generation. So that'll just be one more thing we can do. Now, notice our VRAM is about 6.8 gigs of allocation. Excuse me, I'm trying to come off of a cold. So if you hear my voice, that's just me right now. All right, so we are looking at 7 gigs of allocation. And once we jump down here and turn on that upscaler, again, let me get that out of the way so I can see. Once we turn on that upscaler, we should get a nice break on our VRAM, which should hopefully give us enough VRAM to then frame generate. So let's see what we can get away with here. All right, so that's going to give us 68 FPS. And our VRAM usage went down to 6, so that gives us a nice, comfortable, some headroom there. And we've got a whole gig left on our allocation. So if we did turn on some frame generation, we would be able to hopefully see a little boost above that 82 FPS. Again, it directly requires available VRAM for you to do frame generation. So that's why using DLSS first to see if you can free up some of that VRAM is a good idea, and then turn on that frame generation just to kind of like set your expectations. So let's just jump over here and turn on that frame gen. Now that we are at a comfortable over 60, I wouldn't really like to go more than quality on 1080p. That's just me, you know, but we'll test it out. All right, so let's turn on some of that frame generation if I could find it. There we go. All right, it's on. Just bring that back. That gives us 115 FPS with an allocated VRAM of 7 with using 6.2. Now I have, you know, kind of noticed a little bit of movement on that shared VRAM. That tells me that it is probably starting to dump some assets into the system RAM. However, that frame time graph looks nice and flat. So as long as the end result is a good experience, that's okay in my opinion. You know, but again, everything like this is totally personal. Let's run up here and run up to these stairs over here, because that tends to be an area where we can get some movement on our frames. Again, this is quality DLSS with frame gen enabled and ray tracing enabled, and you're looking really good here at the 5050. Again, this is, in my opinion, completely a 1080p card. We will check out what we can do at 1440 on this title, just to see what we can do as far as, you know, pushing it as far as we can get it to go. This is a little bit older game, so you might get away with it. So let's do that now. Let's just jump over. We've kind of established that it looks really good at 1080p, but let's jump over and see what we can do on, let's see, where's my resolution at? There it is, 2560 by 1440. Go ahead and hit accept on that. All right, so what did that do? Let's jump down here. Let's turn off the frame generation, and let's see what it kind of baseline is with epic settings with the ray tracing turned on. So, all right, and that gives us 58, 59, 60 FPS over in this particular area. Now we are in a little bit more of a closed off space, so you're not loading in distant objects and stuff like that. So I'm going to run out here just to see kind of if we get any movement. Of course, our PCL is about 74, 75. That's just because we are right there at a sub 60 FPS experience. But yeah, it's going to go down when we come out here. Yeah, 52. All right, so if you're at 1440 though, you can comfortably go down to balanced and still maintain a lot of that sharpness. Kind of look at it like 1080p, you can go to quality, 1440 you can go down to balanced, and at 4K you can go down to performance and still maintain a nice quality experience. So let's do that now. Let's just see what we can do as far as the remainder of this test goes. We're at epic settings, and we can come down here and upscale to the balanced preset and see what that does. If that gets us any closer to 60. It does a little bit. We are, you know, knocking on about 6.6, 6.7 gigs of allocated VRAM. Right here we're at 62 FPS in this open area, which is a pretty good sign. I mean, that's a nice sign that you can probably get away with 1440 on this card, at least on this title, with some of these settings enabled. Now, this game does not necessarily, you know, take ray tracing to the next level or anything like that, but I did want to see what it looks like without ray tracing and go back to that quality preset. Go ahead and accept that. So this is without any ray tracing, and that gives us right around 60, and this is a quality upscale. So if you do jump over here and turn on the quality upscale and turn off the ray tracing, you can get an over 60 experience at 1440p with a 5050. And we're not doing any sort of frame generation at the moment, but we do have the VRAM to do that. But let's see what we can do here. Let's jump in here. I'm shooting from the hip here just because It's fun to play around with this stuff, and I'm kind of just fumbling my way through to make sure that I cover all the settings, you know. All right, so balanced DLSS. What if we go to performance? Just want to see if we go to performance, what that does. Okay, that gives us about 82. And it is not that much noticeably less sharp. I mean, it still looks really good. You can totally play this at performance at 1440. Some of the more distant objects, especially like the water, has a little bit of blur to it. But again, you know, you are on a relatively cheap GPU here, and playing a game that isn't exactly new, but it isn't old by any means. I think it's, you know, a couple years old, 3 years old maybe. But, you know, it didn't have the greatest start. They've got some patches and that kind of stuff that's come out. It actually runs pretty well now outside of Kobo. But, yeah, we're looking at 93 FPS here with performance DLSS. So I would probably just say this is how I would play it. I would 1440, go to Epic. Performance DLSS looks just fine. And let's turn on some ray tracing. And let's see what kind of hit that gives us. And if we can stay above 60, that'd be nice. Yeah, we're at 72. 70 FPS, 65, looking pretty good. Our VRAM allocation is managed. It is at 6.8 gigs, and our shared VRAM is staying still. You want to make sure that it's not going over a gig, as I say that it's moving around. But yeah, we're looking okay. You know, I mean, you're going to have to accept that you might have some VRAM spill when you are on an 8 gigabyte VRAM card. You know, you're just going to have to accept that. But does it manage it well? Does it load the assets into the system RAM that aren't gonna stutter, make it, you know, kind of fall apart? This game seems to be doing that in this area, so I wouldn't really take that as a huge, it's not like a huge deal. You know, I mean, can you play the game at the end of the day for $250 on a GPU? You know, I mean, if you really want to think about it like that, if you're getting a pretty cheap piece of hardware and it's doing a lot here, it's able to do quite a bit of resolution with ray tracing. You know, I mean, it just kind of testament of like how good NVIDIA's RT cores really are. So let's just jump over here and turn on some frame gen. So right now, let's just go through a recap here. We are on Epic settings at 1440p. We have VSync turned off. Ray tracing is turned on. We're using performance upscaling, and our frame generation is enabled. All right, so let's jump into here, and we are looking at 96 FPS here. So I would probably play it just like this. We've got some VRAM spill, not too bad. It's not like the end of the world because you're still getting a nice flat frame time graph, and you're looking at 94 FPS, and you didn't go spend $700 on this card. I mean, it's an entry-level, inexpensive card. Yeah, you can go to the used market and get something like a 3060, but those are going to be much older RT cores, much older CUDA cores. Yeah, you're going to get a little bit more VRAM, but as you can see, even with a little bit of VRAM spilling over here and there, it's not like it's completely breaking this thing. The actual card itself is managing to run this title pretty well. To be honest, I was not expecting it to run anything this good on this title, which makes me kind of want to try out 4K. So let's jump over and see what 4K can do. I'm not expecting miracles here, but, you know, let's see. Why not, right? So let's jump into visuals, come over here and kick on that 4K resolution and see what we can do. Now, I am going to leave it on performance just because that is going to have to probably be exactly where we leave it for this to work out. That menu's acting crazy because of frame gen, so let's jump into these settings here. No ray tracing. So let's go with Epic, 4K, no ray tracing, upscaler set to performance because we're at 4K. It's going to look really sharp still. And our frame generation is off at the moment. And let's see, we are at 44 FPS at 4K here, but our actual VRAM allocation is right at 6.5. Now, I am noticing some spill because that number should not be jumping around at all. But, you know, this card is definitely not meant for 4K. It's a miracle we're even getting 48 FPS here. So I'm kind of curious if we can, you know, play at 4K with just some frame gen and see what our PCL does. I've got that monitor up there, those green kind of computer letters, I guess is what you could call them. But yeah, we're looking like looking like we're going to have to enable some enable some frame generation, and that will get us right at 60. Now, it didn't jump a lot because we are likely running out of VRAM, and it just really requires VRAM to get that frame rate up. And once you hit that saturated VRAM, it's just not going to generate any more frames. That's just how it works. All right, so if you're cool with no ray tracing, you can actually get 60 FPS here with Ultra or with Epic presets. But let's find a more balanced response to what we could do here. Let's go with medium. It still looks really good. This game's presets are actually not that far apart. They all look pretty good, even low. So let's go with medium there on 4K. No ray tracing, upscaler still set to performance, and no frame generation, just so we can get a base frame rate here. That gives us 53 FPS, and yeah, we're looking like this could be a viable option even without frame generation, because you are pretty close to 60. I'd like to be over 60. The mouse definitely doesn't feel like real snappy. Our PCL's at 82 FPS or 82 milliseconds, which is a little high. I like it to be around 50. But can you play this game at 4K with this card and have a good experience? Yeah, if you set your expectations right, I think you can. So if you want to come in here and do some frame gen, see what we can get this 4K beast up to. I say that jokingly. Yeah, so we're looking at frame generation, and that gives us about 61. Not too different from when we were on Epic settings, honestly. That's what I'm saying. Like, the difference is just not that much. So I would just go ahead and do Epic settings with frame gen. I want to try and see what it looks like with ray tracing on, just to give it a complete look through, because this game it's been out a little while. We might be able to get some ray tracing to work. Who knows? Let's turn that frame generation off. Turn ray tracing on. So this is fully maxed out with performance upscaling. And we're at 40 FPS. Of course, this is not how I would really want to play it, but you can do some. You can keep it above 30 FPS at least. But if you wanted to come in here and do some frame generation, you could do that. Because again, going from Epic to medium just didn't do that much of a difference. I mean, it's just not that big of a deal. Visually speaking, these are incremental versus something like Wukong, where it has like low and medium is like a dramatic difference. That's just not the case in this title. So you come in here and kick on some of that frame generation, and let's see what it does here. So performance, frame gen, and we're at 51 FPS. Now you could go to ultra performance. I will say that it starts to look pretty bad. It gets pretty blurry. So I don't like using ultra performance in any resolution. I think it just really tanks the visual sharpness quite a bit. But yeah, let's just jump over here and what the hell? Let's just see what it does, because I mean, we're here. Why not? All right, I've got the test set up. Might as well just do it. All right, so this would be ultra performance. Let's turn frame generation off. Let's just get a base for what ultra performance would look like. Oh yeah, it's very, very milky. the water is just so blurry, and we're still at 52 FPS. So I mean, you could come in here and turn on some frame gen, because I mean, your allocated VRAM, I mean, look at it. You're at 5.4. You got plenty to frame generate with now. So we might be able to get some pretty high numbers here. So let's just check that out. All right, so we are at 64 FPS here at 4K. It is blurry, though. I would not want to play it like this, but just to give you guys some answers, that's what I'm here for. Just give you answers. I'm not recommending anything. I'm just giving you knowledge so you can make your own decisions, because everyone's playstyle is different. Everyone's tolerance is different. Some people don't mind frame generation. Some people hate it, never use it. That's just what I'm here to do, is just give you guys all of the different ways you can play it. And see what works best for you. So if you like this kind of thing, please jump down there and give me a like, give me a subscribe. That would be amazing. And we will see you guys in the very next video. Peace.